Here it is. Finally finished my Mad Hatter piece. It was pretty time consuming and hopefully we'll all appreciate that it did take me a hell of a lot of time. That's why this video is up a week after I was intending. So yeah, anyway, let's just get on to telling you the colours and my process and my thoughts. So I thought I'd do the background first, just so it gave me, the outline, the general outline, and where I want everything to go for his like hat and face and everything. So I used pear green in my Flexmarker just to create a flat background. I didn't want to do anything fancy because I did not want to detract from his face. Then I thought I would work on his hat, which is got quite a lot of texture into it because of the fact that it's made out of a fabric and it's got a pattern on there. So yeah, I had to really work at this and do a lot on it just to get this to look how I wanted. So for the patterning, it was kind of a yellow patterning, so I used my gold Promarker, which is, it's just kind of like a butter yellow, I would say, and I just basically just dabbed out a bit of ink, jotting where the pattern was. Then, just to make it a bit more greeny, because it is kind of a greeny yellow, I added that pear green from the background over the top of it in areas, just to create kind of like shadow and light areas of that pattern. I then used in my Copic markers, I used G20, what is that? G28, I think it is. G28 or something like that. Just to fill the background of the hat in green. I then kept going over with that same pen just to create the shadows of the hat, and leave the section just on the left side of the hat that we can see lighter, to create the effect of light shining off that hat. So I just keep layering up that, and I use, again in the Copic markers, I use a warm grey 9 and blend that out with that green and also a holly colour in Promarkers, just to create those dark points and make them even darker, just to, to really give that illusion of a fabric hat that he's done. Also on the left side, as he's a hat maker himself, he has kind of like pins sticking out of it, and also kind of fabric draped over the left side here, as you can see where I've left white. So I do try and create that kind of illusion of that fabric over there, but it turned out to be quite difficult. But I just followed the reference photo, kind of, instead of creating what I would think a fabric looks like, I just followed that and used kind of like shapes and things like that. I follow what Lockery Fine Art on YouTube, and another artist. She always says that if you're following a reference photo, to tip it upside down and you can see shapes, and you can create the better reference from that. It's easier to do rather than trying to copy it just from your eye. So that's what I did. And I also created the Peacock Feather, which again was quite difficult, but I hope it kind of looks like a peacock feather. You can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I'll let you watch the rest of this hat process, and I will chirp in when I need to say something else. I'm just using those white parts there, we're using the Posca pen but in the ultra fine, so I got kind of a very precise look about it, and then I just redefined some of the areas like the fabric and the pins with a Copic marker in 100. Okay, so now moving on to the fabric that's kind of stretched along the base of the hat above the rim. I just blocked it in this soft peach colour in my Promarker, and then used, I think it was a colour, I think it was Sunkissed Pink, I think it was, oh no, it was Coral, sorry. I just used this Coral to create those dark areas along the edges, and then I just blended it out with the colourless blender just to make sure that light point, again on that left side of his hat, is showing through. I used the soft peach again just to go over it, and it actually had a lot of ink in at this point, and therefore it kind of created these ridges when I went over it to make it look like there's depth there. I then used I think it was my burnt sienna in my Flexmarker, I think, or my saddle brown, I'm not sure which one, I think it might have been burnt sienna, just because it has kind of like an orange look to it, and therefore I just created the shadowing like that, and then blended it out with that coral and then the rose peach, just to, you know, blend it all together, create those dark points and create the wrinkles in the hat there with to make it look like there is that piece of fabric. I then use my ultrafine Posca white pen again just to create those highlights, and they do, this is before I've actually shaken the pen and gotten the ink flowing properly, so it's quite a watery ink at this stage as soon as you know, when you first use the pen, and therefore it actually fades out and gives it that highlight look, but not with a very strong white look about it, which really added to the hat, I think. So here I was moving on to his face. From the reference photo, he has a very white makeup kind of going on his face. So I used, I think it was Cool Grey 1, but my Cool Grey has actually run out, so it has a lot of rubbing alcohol in there that I've actually diluted the colour out even further, so it creates this almost white look about it. I then go in with my Cool Grey 2 in my Promarkers and just created the darker areas and then added in the colour, so he has a bit of pink makeup on there, a bit of purple, and also the shading was done with the Cool Grey 7, just where his cheeks are, and I've blended that out with the colourless blender again. So I'm just layering up the dark points where there's shadow and everything like that. At this point I did notice his face is a bit of an odd shape after I've drawn it, so I do actually alter that with my colourless blender when I'm adding colour as well. So here with his eyes I use bright green in the Promarker just to create the, you know, the main part, and then here again I'm adding more colour from his makeup, so because he has a bit of a blue kind of tinge to his face as well as the greyness, so I just used a cool aqua colour just to create those very subtle blue look to his face. So here, working on the eye, I used the Sunkissed Pink just around the eye, you know, on the eyeball, where there's a bit of shadowing, and also for his makeup I just layered up little bits of pink, so pink lobster, antique pink, that type of thing, so more of the antique pink because that was more of the makeup colour, and again I'm adding more shadows with warm and cool greys. For his face I think I used more cool grey than warm grey because his face wasn't, you know, a warm grey tinge like his hat was, and here I just use, you know, my very dark warm grey just to outline his eyes, and I'm adding the colour in, and using my white Posca pen as well to, you know, create those highlights on the eyes that you get. And again, I noticed that the eye was a bit of an odd shape, so I think off camera I might have done this kind of late night before I go to sleep. I altered it, so that's the altered look, I think. And then I just do the same thing with the other eye, and again build up the makeup around and build up the shadows, just to really try and get his face to look as closely as possible to the reference photo. I really do not try to make it look photorealistic. I don't try to do anything like that. I just try and, you know, do my interpretation on the reference photo. So the eyes on him and his face and his mouth are a lot bigger than on the reference photo, because I really love the Mad Hatter character in Alice in Wonderland, and I really enjoy, you know, seeing how crazy he kind of is, and I wanted to mix that dark side to him when he gets a bit upset and angry with his mad side that you see in this photo. So this is what I was really trying to, you know, get across through this piece of art I was creating. So I'll let you watch me build up all this colour and add all this in using my antique pink, tropical orchid, mulberry colours and amethyst, plum preserve in my Promarkers, as well as my V07, I think that is, V07 or 8, in my Copics as well, to create those dark purples. So I'll let you watch the rest. With his lips, I actually ended up adding more purpley colour, I think, using amethyst, I think the colour was, than I actually was wanting. I wanted it to be a bit more red than that, but again, it doesn't need to be exactly the same colours, you know, and I think that the lips actually looked okay at the end, so that was good. Okay, so I think I lost a little bit of footage, or I'd forgotten to press film or something. This is me working on his eyebrows and hair. So as you can see, he has very, very wild, very, very orange hair. So I used bright orange in my Promarker, which if you layer up enough will turn very dark. So I use that just to block in that orange colour everywhere, making sure to add little curls in where you can see parts of the background, because his hair is not a big block of hair. You can see parts behind him, you can see, you know, bits of that orange behind him, bits of that green behind him, and he also has very curly hair, so you really have to get that across. There's no, you know, like spiralling. I don't know if anyone's watched again Lockery Fine Arts How Not to Draw Hair video, but she does say that it's not just spirals, there's a lot of depth in there. Much like when I did the Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, he doesn't just have curls, it's kind of very wavy in different directions and things like that. So this is basically what I did on the right side. I just put in the bits of green for the background, and then I block in bits of colour, but also keep in mind that I need to keep doing little swirls over that green background to show that there is, you know, curly hair there, and he has got curls and you can see through it a little bit. So I think I just do that on his eyebrows as well, and his right eyebrow, well, his left eyebrow, I didn't quite like how that turned out, but in the end, you know, it doesn't look too bad, and he he's mad, do you know? He's got weird looking eyebrows and things like that. So yeah, I just keep layering that up. I keep adding more and more of that same pen just to darken it. And I think in the end, I think I add some other colours. I think maybe a bit of a red. I can't remember whether it's... Oh, I can't remember what red I use. Maybe berry red or something like that. I use just to darken a couple of areas, and then I use the warm greys and things. Here for his collar, I think I just use my rose peach again just to create that skin tone, because his face, he's got a lot of makeup on, but they didn't put any makeup on his neck, so you actually do have a skin tone on his neck there. And again, the cool and warm greys come into play to add a lot of shadowing. As you can see, it was very difficult to get the shadows right, because you didn't want to fill it all in with shadows, but then you wanted to show that there was that hair in there. So I did use the burnt sienna again because of that orange tinge to it, just to create kind of like an in-between between those very shadowed areas from the warm greys to the very light areas of the bright orange. And then again, I use, like I always do when I do hair, I use my Posca pen just to create those lines of hair, and then once that's dry I do go over that. You'll see in a second I do go over those white bits, and you will see that they kind of show up as highlights, but they are blended in a bit, so they don't just look like big, you know, white lines or orange lines. When I go over it, they will blend into that background of hair. This left side has a lot more light hitting on it, as you can see from the hat, so therefore it has a lot more highlights on there, so you'll see me use this white pen quite a bit on this left side of his head. here's me going over those white bits. As you can see, they do blend in. I try and leave a little bit of the white showing just to show that they are highlights, but they do end up blending in a lot more than you might think. So it does look drastic at first, but if you just bear in mind that they will blend, and you can keep blending them if you add more and more alcohol ink over the top of them, the white paint almost dissolves under it and blends in even further. So now I start to work on his collar and his bow and his jacket, and again his bow has a lot of texture because of the fabric it's made from, so that does take me a long time, and it also has a very difficult pattern to replicate, and it does take me a long time, and I do use a hell of a lot of colours. There are many colours. I'm using China blue, Twilight Sky, petrol blue. They're just the blues on that. Then there's berry red, poppy, there's pink lobster, antique pink. They're in my Promarkers and Flexmarkers, and then there's RV29 in my Copics, and Y50 in my Copics, and also the gold in my Promarkers again comes into play here, as well as kind of subtle pinks like pink mittens, baby pink and blossom. So there are a lot of elements to this bow, and it did take me a long time to really get the look of the pattern in there without it looking too abstract and almost like I'm just making up little shapes. So I did try and follow the reference as closely as possible, adding highlights in some of the parts, so it's not just a case of adding that colour here and there to create that piece of the pattern. There's depth to them. You've got to add shadows to those bits to show that there's a crinkle in the fabric, a very subtle crinkle in that fabric, and it's not just a 2D piece of fabric, it's got a 3D element to it. Whilst you're watching this, I'd just like to add, if anyone's noticed that I haven't uploaded any of my progress of anything on Instagram, it's because my camera on my phone's not working, so it's a bit more difficult for me to take photos, and although I have an iPad, I just always forget to take photos on that for some reason. But I should be able to start taking more photos, and I'll upload this Mad Hatter probably as I'm doing this voiceover, so just before the video goes up, and hopefully you'll be able to have a look on there. But please go and follow me on there if you want to see any of my progress in advance of me uploading videos, because when I go back to uni I won't have a chance to do many videos, so if I do have a chance to do anything I will do as much as possible, so you will see a lot of progress before it even happens. Same with Twitter if you don't have Instagram, and please, if you want to see any more videos like this, because I'm hoping to do a lot more, but also like challenges, speed paints and things, just give me a subscribe on here and you'll get to see everything straight away. So please do that if you want to see more. Onto the video again. I use Saddle Brown as the base for his jacket because it's kind of like a brown tinge from the photo, and then I also didn't want to detract from his face or his bow or anything, so I actually darken it quite a lot so it's almost like you cannot see it. Also, his hand didn't turn out exactly how I like it, but from a distance, and also considering, he's got not very nicely kept hands. They're very dirty and kind of like got bits of blood on from pricking himself and things like that. Not the greatest hands, so it was quite difficult to get that detail in whilst keeping the kind of shape of his hands and everything like that. So just the rest of his jacket is building up the colour and everything like that, and also his hands is trying just to get that depth in there, and everything like that. So yeah, I'll leave you to watch the rest of the video. Okay, so we're nearing the end of the video here. I hope you've enjoyed it, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. So bye. Okay, so my fourth scroll box has just arrived. I thought I'd unbox it quickly and then get thinking on some artwork. So let's go. This is the August scroll box. I haven't seen anyone open this yet, so I have no idea what's in here, but it looks very interesting and colourful. So